So, Series 11 may be over, but I'm not finished with it yet. It's been a little over 2 months since the 11th series of Doctor Who first aired, and since then I've rewatched and looked back on some of the episodes. So, from the top. The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Jodie was absolutely brilliant in this episode, and all the main characters had their moment. The Doctor was slightly childish at times, but being a regeneration episode, that didn't bother me, and it kind of added to it. The monster of the week was a very strong one. Surprisingly, this monster wasn't outshadowed by the amount of introductions in this episode. The voice was great and the face of teeth was very chilling. And Grace was such a good character. I found her so likeable and I was genuinely sad when she fell from that crane. I was really impressed with this episode. Despite my worries about new writer Chris Chibnall, I'm going to give The Woman Who Fell to Earth 5 stars. The Ghost Monument. The cliffhanger at the end of episode 1 had me very excited for this episode. Unfortunately, the episode didn't really meet my expectations. The sniper bots didn't do very much at all, and the remnants, although they mentioned the Timeless Child, didn't do much either. The Doctor, although despite occasionally making me laugh, had not grown on me the way I thought she was going to. And with so little threat in the episode, I was hoping this wasn't the direction Series 11 was heading. And now, I was starting to worry, despite it only being episode 2. 2 stars. I was a bit disappointed. ROSA. For me, the thing that made this episode was Vinette Robinson's performance of Rosa Parks. The story was a perfect snapshot of a key moment in the civil rights movement. This episode was very honest and didn't leave much untold, even referencing Emmett Till. I liked this a lot, but it was handled in quite an adult way to be a child-friendly family show. The villain of the episode was a bit bland, and didn't provide enough threat to make me really enjoy the episode to the full. However, I did enjoy Ryan's performance in this episode, and I loved how he sent the villain out of Montgomery. It was a good episode, but straight after the likes of episode 2, I was still a bit worried about Series 11. Unfortunately, the villain does let this one down, but this was a television masterpiece. 4 stars. Arachnids in the UK. After quite a gripping next time and trailer, I was excited to see this episode, and to a degree, it met my expectations. It was nice to meet Yaz's family, as Yaz hadn't really stood out beyond episode 1. The Doctor was still not quite there yet, and I don't think I was feeling too confident about our new incarnation at this point. The villain was a bit far-fetched, but I think he fitted in well with the episode and he really made the spiders look kind of scary. I'm so grateful for that bathroom scene with the giant spider though. This episode didn't completely reassure me about Series 11, as we were like nearly halfway through the series, but it did restore my faith in Doctor Who to a certain degree. It wasn't perfect though. 3 stars. It was okay. The TSURANGA Conundrum. This episode may arguably be the worst episode of New Who. At this point, rumours were going around that Doctor Who was getting too politically correct. The addition of a pregnant man didn't really help Doctor Who's case. I also found this character very unlikable. Unfortunately, the monster of the week was quite laughable. I didn't find the Pating very scary at all, but apparently all the characters in this story did. Yeah, at this point, I wasn't really sure anything could save this series. Yeah, it was really bad. Demons of the Punjab. I was once again quite hopeful about this episode as the monsters came across quite threatening. Sadly, halfway through this episode, the threat they created was diminished. These aliens were good guys in the end, and these creatures were a unique concept, but I was so desperate for a typical Doctor Who foe like the Stenza. I was a little bit annoyed. I cannot fault how moving this episode was, as Yaz and her grandmother was a very worthwhile storyline. Unfortunately, the real villain was revealed to be a human. Once again, Doctor Who felt a bit more like a drama rather than a sci-fi show. It was a good episode, but Series 11 was still not like the Doctor Who I was used to. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. 3 stars. Kerblam. This episode completely restored my faith in Doctor Who, as Series 11 reverted back to the old Doctor Who formula. Everything felt like the Doctor Who I grew up with, and there were even a few references to previous episodes. All of a sudden, Series 11 didn't seem so distant from the previous series. The guest stars were great and the postmen were a genuine threat. It may not be a standout episode, but I was so happy when I saw this for the first time. 5 stars. The Witchfinders. I was praying Doctor Who would return to its familiar formula, and my prayers were answered. Episode 8 was exactly what I wanted to see in Doctor Who Series 11. Jodie's performance was particularly good in this story, as the Doctor went through quite a lot, specifically regarding her gender, and the supporting cast were also very good. The Morax reveal was amazing. I really like the concept of mud that steals bodies, and I'm so glad these monsters were actually evil. This episode was everything I wanted and more. 5 stars. It Takes You Away. This episode was one of the weirder ones, but I can't say I didn't enjoy it. It was actually a very engaging episode. The anti-zone in particular was pretty interesting. The addition of a fake Grace in this episode really made it, and I do feel that Bradley Walsh's performance is among some of the best in New Who. And yeah, the way the frog was brought into it was a bit weird, but the way this episode was executed was actually very good. However, this episode didn't exactly help my fear of moths. 4 stars. The Battle of RANSKOOR at KOLOS. This episode was a very good end for Series 11. Both the sniper bots and Stenza made a return, and Graham threatened to murder the creature that was responsible for Grace's death. Although this episode was full of action and tension, I don't think single episode finales are as effective in Doctor Who. A 2-parter may have been more explosive. Not a perfect finale, but a very good one that linked back to the previous episodes very well. 4 stars. And that gives Series 11 a total of 36 out of a possible 50. I was really disappointed with this series, but the more recent episodes are much better, so I'm hoping Resolution is as good as it looks. But that's it for me. What did you think of this year's series? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be back next year reviewing the New Year's special, but until then, I've been Christopher and you've been
brilliant.